Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Senator Ted Cruz endorses Trump, and Vivek Ramaswamy is calling on other GOP candidates to drop their campaigns. U.S. officials have redesignated Iran-backed Houthis as a global terrorist group. This comes in response to recent attacks in the Red Sea. The Philippines is banning poultry imports due to bird flu. More on the current situation. CNN and ABC News have canceled the only two Republican debates leading up to the New Hampshire primary on January 23rd. Both media companies cited a lack of participation. Nikki Haley declined to do any more debates unless Donald Trump participates, and Trump has skipped every debate so far. Ron DeSantis was the only one who accepted. Now let's take a look at other top headlines. More election-related news. Former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is calling on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley to drop their campaigns and unite the party behind Trump. Ramaswamy stated that stepping aside would be a service to the country and the party. Here's Ramaswamy speaking at a Trump rally in New Hampshire last night.
And I told him that I would endorse Donald J. Trump for President of the United States and do everything in my power to lead us to victory in this war.
And Senator Ted Cruz also officially endorsed the former President Trump last night. This is Cruz's third endorsement of Trump in the presidential primaries. A policy reversal by the Biden administration. The U.S. redesignates Iran-backed Houthis as a global terrorist group in response to Red Sea attacks. The designation will trigger sanctions designed to prevent further attacks on global trade in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The terrorist group designation is set to take effect in 30 days. Officials emphasized that commercial shipments of food, medicine, fuel, and other humanitarian aid into Yemeni ports will be exempted. Yemen is amid a civil war between the Houthi rebels and the country's internationally recognized government. Houthis were designated as a terrorist group towards the end of the previous Trump administration. Secretary of State Antony Blinken took the Houthis off from both a foreign terrorist organization and the specially designated global terrorist lists in February 2021, as the Biden administration tried to make it easier to get humanitarian aid into Yemen. A change of flight in Davos. Secretary of State Antony Blinken briefly stranded in Switzerland after modified Boeing plane suffers critical error. Secretary Blinken was forced to change planes to return to Washington from Davos after his plane suffered what the traveling press was told was a critical failure related to an oxygen leak. Blinken and the traveling party boarded the modified Boeing 737 jet in Zurich on Wednesday after a day-and-a-half of meetings at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The plane suffered the issue after boarding and the party was forced to deplane. A new and smaller aircraft was being sent for Blinken, and many in the traveling party returned to Washington commercially. American dollars to fund China's military. The House Foreign Affairs Committee held a hearing today about the flow of American dollars into China's military.
And while we can restrict China's access to U.S. critical technology through export controls, we can't stop big investors from using their money, know-how, and network to help build highly advanced technology companies in China. Regrettably, U.S. money is fueling the CCP war machine and surveillance state.
Foreign U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor and Distinguished Fellow of Hoover Institute Matthew Pottinger detailed cases of how U.S. capitals have helped foster the growth of China's military might.
Corporate independence in today's China is an illusion. The truth is that the single-party dictatorship that rules China has powerful authorities and influence over all entities, whether private or state-owned, civilian or military, domestic or even foreign.
Pottinger cautioned that Beijing has built a business and regulatory ecosystem to facilitate and mandate the transfer of dual-use technologies to China's military and intelligence programs. as some American investors have inadvertently, sometimes carelessly, helped to underwrite and expedite the modernization of the People's Liberation Army in China. Also on China, plunging investments shrouded the threats from Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping and a round of diplomatic flare-ups. A look at China's latest actions after Taiwan selected its president. Here's more.
A slew of actions from Beijing after Taiwan chose its new leader. A Chinese Communist Party journal published a speech from Communist leader Xi Jinping Monday. In it, he urged the CCP to promote efforts to make Taiwan part of China. This speech is an old one, first published 2 years ago. At the time, it didn't mention Taiwan. A Chinese invasion of the island would also present a problem for Washington. Taiwan is part of a group of islands in the region. Together, they block China from launching submarine-based nuclear attacks against the U.S. The communist regime claims Taiwan as its own, despite never having controlled it. Beijing also pressures other countries not to hold formal relations with Taiwan. Now back to the election. The Philippines and Singapore congratulated Taiwan's new president. Soon after, China summoned the Philippines ambassador and lodged a diplomatic complaint against Singapore. As for Taiwan, its defense ministry said on Tuesday that the CCP could amp up its military pressure.
The Chinese military will continue to strengthen its pressure on Taiwan in the near future through regular combat readiness patrols and other activities, combining cognitive warfare and gray zone intrusions.
2 months before Taiwan's election, cyber attacks targeting the island hit a new high, spiking over 600% in the last quarter of 2023 compared to the same period last year. The attacks are designed to crash Taiwan's communication networks. That data comes from IT company Cloudflare. What's more, cross-strait tensions have made companies uneasy, and they're taking action to protect themselves. New data shows Taiwanese firms' investments in China plunged to its lowest level since 2001, an almost 40% drop compared to last year. Worth noting, Taiwanese companies have long been some of China's biggest investors.
And in more China news, Chinese scientists experimenting with a new mutant COVID-19 strain. How deadly is it? Learn more tonight at 9:30 on NTD's China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer. The Philippines is currently banning poultry imports from 2 U.S. states. The island country is trying to keep the bird flu from spreading.
The Philippines Farm Ministry said on Wednesday it has banned poultry imports from California and Ohio because of several outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza. The ban, which aims to protect the health of the Philippines' poultry population, covers imports of domesticated and wild birds, including poultry meat and eggs. All shipments coming from California and Ohio that are already in transit, loaded, or accepted at Philippine ports before January 15th will be allowed entry if they were slaughtered 2 weeks before the outbreak began. Government data show that in 2023, the Philippines imported over 166,000 tons of poultry products worth $175.8 million from the United States. It's the second largest supplier to the Southeast Asian nation, accounting for 40% of arrivals. Earlier this month, the Philippines stopped poultry imports from Belgium and France, also because of a bird flu outbreak. In December, a county in California had to euthanize 250,000 birds to control the outbreak. Bird flu is carried by migrating wild birds and can then be transmitted between farms. It has ravaged flocks around the world in recent years, disrupting supply and pushing up food prices.
A poultry processing plant in Mississippi is being held responsible for the tragic death of a 16-year-old sanitation worker who was pulled into a machine last July. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, Dejan Perez was deep cleaning the deboning area at the Mark Jack Poultry plant in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, when his hand got caught and his body was pulled into the machinery. Investigators determined that Mark Jack Poultry failed to follow procedures that would have ensured that the machinery was completely disabled. The Georgia-based company that owned the slaughterhouse was cited 14 times by OSHA, which proposed more than $210,000 in fines. OSHA said in a news release Tuesday, Mark Jack Poultry is aware of how dangerous the machinery they use can be when safety standards are not in place to prevent serious injury and death. The company's inaction has directly led to this terrible tragedy, which has left so many to mourn this child's preventable death. However, in October, Mark Jack's attorney Larry Stein said that all safety procedures had been followed. The Labor Department is investigating whether Mark Jack Poultry or a subcontractor violated child labor regulations. The federal law prohibits individuals under 18 from working in slaughterhouses. Perez was the second individual to accidentally die at the plant after getting sucked into a machine in a 2-year period. Christina Corona, NTD News.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. 30 years ago today, a powerful earthquake struck Southern California. As we remember the tragedy, we'll also review some earthquake safety tips. In Northern California, a city is being called out for its inclusion policies, while some say the initiative hurt students more than helped. Coaches switching teams in the world of college football, and the Warriors mourn the loss of their assistant coach. More on those stories coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. Today marks the anniversary of the devastating Northridge earthquake that shook the San Fernando Valley 30 years ago. NTD's Christina Corona offers guidance on staying prepared for significant events and how to be ready for the big one.
The 6.7 magnitude earthquake struck shortly after 4:30 a.m. on January 17, 1994, and lasted around 10 to 20 seconds. The historic quake caused 57 deaths and injured thousands. 7 major freeway bridges in the area collapsed, leaving hundreds of people trapped in their cars. 82,000 residential and commercial units and 5,400 mobile homes were damaged or destroyed. The earthquake caused up to $20 billion in damage costs, plus $40 billion in economic loss. The best time to prepare for any disaster is before it happens. Here are some ways to prepare for an earthquake. If you are indoors, stay inside. Take cover under a desk or table. Avoid windows, fireplaces, and heavy furniture. Don't stay in the kitchen. If you're outdoors, move to an open area away from buildings and hazards. If you're driving, stop safely, away from bridges and tall structures. Stay inside your car until the shaking stops. You can now receive an early earthquake warning alert on your phone by downloading My Shake app, Android earthquake alerts, or wireless emergency alerts to be notified before the strongest shake arrives. Christina Corona, NTD News.
A San Francisco high school PTA president calls out the city's inclusion policies. He says they're hurting the overall performance of the students.
In San Francisco, Algebra 1 has not been taught in 8th grade since 2015. Instead, it was pushed out to the 9th grade. The reasoning was to narrow the achievement gap to be more inclusive for other minorities like Latin and African American students. Rex Ridgway, president of the PTA at Lincoln High School in San Francisco, explains to California insider Siamak Karami the effects of that.
As we speak today, only 9% of African American kids in San Francisco public schools are proficient in math. So there's no victory. The other thing that came about was that a lot of parents took their kids out of the public school, where today 30% of families in San Francisco have their kids in private school, compared to 9% statewide. So 9% of California statewide, from Eureka to San Diego, only 9% of families have their kids in private school.
Ridgway said the issue became more prominent when the pandemic hit and classes were held remotely where parents could see the instruction materials.
Because they pushed Algebra 1 from 8th grade to 9th grade, you can't get to calculus. How can you not get to calculus in a city which Mayor London Breed has recently said is the hub of AI, which is true? They've really, just, in our opinion, dumbed it down to try to make this achievement thing happen, and it has backfired. And as I said, right now as we speak, only 9% of African American kids in San Francisco Unified are proficient in math.
Ridgway said he had to put his granddaughter in an Algebra 1 class during the summer before 9th grade so she could double up and take algebra and geometry. During a mathematics workshop meeting in May, the school district superintendent, Matt Wayne, said the current approach to math is not working, and that we've even limited some students who want to pursue and wish to accelerate in math.
So what was happening of a class of 25 kids, the teacher was basically not allowed to work separately
with other kids that are doing well,
that were doing well
in a better, more advanced way.
Or on the other hand, those who were not doing well, who needed the help. And because of the detracking, she couldn't separate the kids.
Wow.
She had to keep all the kids together in lockstep because you detract. Detracking means you don't let kids shine. You keep them all in the same pace, at the same grade.
The Stanford research also found that the equity-focused mathematics reform in SFUSD initially caused a 15% plunge in participation in advanced placement math, driven by declines in AP Calculus and among Asian Pacific Islander students. Right after the research was published, a group of frustrated San Francisco parents sued the school district, demanding that officials put Algebra 1 back into middle schools for students who are ready to take it. Last July, the group of parents sent a letter calling for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors to place a ballot measure in the 2024 election to make Algebra 1 available again for 8th graders.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on Epic TV on the Epic Times website or Ganjing World. Now we dive into the intricate coaching carousel in college football with NTD's Carlos Reyes. Carlos, let's explore the sequence of events. First, the Deboer's move from Washington to Alabama. Can you tell us a little bit about how this new hire for the Roll Tide?
Well, absolutely, David. It's been quite a ride. Kalen Deboer is fresh off of leading Washington to a Pac-12 championship and a college football playoff appearance. And he's now the head coach at Alabama. This follows the retirement of the legendary coach Nick Saban, leaving Deboer with the challenge of continuing Alabama's impressive legacy. Deboer at 49 leaves behind an impressive record at Washington, finishing the season 12-0 in the regular season and reaching the CFP National Championship game.
Now, Washington fought hard to keep Deboer. Any specifics on their efforts?
Washington's athletic director Troy Dannon made an aggressive push to retain Deboer, and who's to blame him? Offering a new contract that would have ranked him among the top 10 highest paid coaches in the FBS. Despite their efforts, Deboer opted for the opportunity at Alabama, triggering a $12 million buyout to Washington. His departure comes after a stellar season where the Huskies showcased their prowess, winning the Pac-12 championship and earning a spot in the CFP National Championship game.
Now, who stepped in as Deboer's replacement at Washington?
Well, David, Washington swiftly secured Jed Fisch from Arizona to fill Deboer's shoes. Fisch, known for his work at Arizona, agreed to a 7-year contract averaging $7.75 million annually. This move, however, comes at a cost, with Washington paying a $5.5 million price tag for Fisch. Arizona, now in need of a new head coach, faces the challenge of rebuilding after Fisch led them to a 10-3 season and an Alamo Bowl victory.
How does Arizona respond to Fisch's departure?
Well, David, Arizona has appointed San Jose State's Brent Brennan as their new football coach. Brennan, completing his 7th season at San Jose State, boasts a 26-19 record over the past 4 seasons with 3 bowl appearances but no wins. However, this leaves San Jose State without a head coach in a highly competitive market heading into the next season.
Yeah, this certainly poses a challenge for San Jose State moving forward. Transitioning over to some heartbreaking news, Golden State Warriors assistant coach Dejan Milojevic has tragically passed away at the age of 46 after suffering a heart attack at a private team dinner. So, Carlos, can you provide us with more details on the circumstances surrounding Dejan Milojevic's passing?
Absolutely, David. It's truly a somber moment for the Warriors and the entire basketball community. Milojevic passed away in Salt Lake City on Wednesday morning after being hospitalized the previous night. The Warriors organization, along with head coach Steve Kerr, expressed their profound grief and shock at the sudden loss of a beloved member of their coaching staff.
How has the NBA reacted to this unfortunate news today?
Well, the NBA took immediate action by postponing the Warriors game against the Utah Jazz on Wednesday upon learning of Milojevic's hospitalization. It's a testament to the impact he had not only on the Warriors, but also on the league as a whole.
Can you tell us more about Dejan Milojevic's coaching career and his contributions to the world of basketball?
Well, David, Milojevic joined Steve Kerr's coaching staff in 2021, focusing on working with the Warriors forwards and centers. His coaching legacy extends beyond the NBA, however, having led Budućnost to Pro League titles and national cups in Montenegro and Serbia. He also played a significant role in the early development of two-time NBA MVP Nikola Jokic. It's truly a saddening time for basketball fans around the world, to say the least.
Thank you, Carlos, for providing us with insight into this tragic event. Our thoughts are with Dejan Milojevic's family and the entire Golden State Warriors organization during this difficult time. All right, that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.